that's 43% of the land area of the planet, and it's only giving us 12% of the food we eat. So there's a tremendous inefficiency in animal agriculture, because for every pound or every kg of animal food we get from the animals, we're actually having to feed the animals 39 kgs of food. But if we all go vegan, we can literally solve all our problems.
We will continue with our sessions with our next speaker, who is Dr. Sailesh Rao, the founder and executive director of Climate Healers, who possesses a remarkable background with over 3 decades of professional experience. However, his journey took a transformative turn in 2006 when he devoted his career to addressing environmental crises. Dr. Rao is the author of 4 books, an executive producer of several documentaries, and an acclaimed figure in the field of sustainability. His extensive work has earned him awards and recognition, including the title of Climate Hero by The Guardian in 2023. He also serves on advisory councils and boards dedicated to responsible nutrition and climate advocacy, and his session is going to be packed of so much of mind-blowing information that I'm sure all of us will get a lot to learn. I invite Dr. Rao to please come on the stage.
Thank you for that. I hope to live up to that. Thank you all for being here. And I want to first acknowledge that what I'm going to tell you is a story that originated with my granddaughter. Okay, before she was born in 2010, I was one of the most depressed environmentalists on the planet. I thought we were going to hell in a handbasket and there is nothing I can do about it. And she was born in 2010, and when I went to see her when she was a month old, she looked up at me and she smiled. And that was it. I immediately changed my outlook on the environment. I realized that we belong exactly as we are, and we're not telling the right story. So I constructed that story, and that's what I'm going to tell you now. So I begin with the assumption that humans are part of nature. We've always been a part of nature. We never got separated from nature. Okay? And nature has been using us to do some work for herself. So to understand that story, you have to first realize that we are in a major event in the Earth's history. Can anyone guess what that event is? I mean, it's a major event. This is the 5th major event that's happened in the Earth's history. Is the 6th extinction is what you're talking about? No, that's not what I'm talking about. There's another one.
1.5 degrees. The temperature increase of 1.5 degrees.
No, that's not the major event. The major event that's been going on for the last 2.7 million years is that the Earth is in its 5th major ice age in its history. Okay? The first major ice age happened 2.6 billion to 2.1 billion years ago. So 500 million years, the Earth was frozen, literally almost frozen. So now for the last 2.7 million years, the Earth has gone through several ice ages and short warm periods between the ice ages. And so what I'm showing you here is the white line is the temperature of the Earth reconstructed over the last 650,000 years. So now you can see that roughly every 100,000 years, it goes into an ice age and comes out of it. Goes into an ice age and comes out of it. Because the difference in temperature between the high and the low is about 10 degrees Celsius, which is huge. So when it's in an ice age, you get about 2 kilometers of ice on top of North America. Nothing lives in 2 kilometers of ice on top of North America. And then you get a short warm period for about 10,000 years, and then the ice melts. And the ice melts and life expands beyond the equator, spreads throughout the Earth, and then goes back to the ice age again. So during this time, the Earth spawned us as a species. Then 500,000 years ago, she gave us a box of matches and said, you can now set fire whenever you want. Okay? So with that, we were able to build weapons and we were able to protect ourselves. And then 50,000 years ago, she gave us partnership with wolves. So we became friends with wolves, who then lent us their sense of smell, their sense of hearing, their sense of sight. which is far superior to ours. That allowed us to spread out of Africa and go to every part of the world in the previous ice age. So 50,000 years ago it was an ice age. That's the green line here. During an ice age, we spread out of Africa, went to every part of the world. We even crossed on ice bridges to go into North America and so on. Right? We became an invasive species everywhere. And then the Earth warmed up to the current warm period, which is known as the Holocene, which is on the right-hand side here. So you see the red circle on the right-hand side? You can see that that looks exactly like the red circle that happened 3 ice ages ago. Except instead of going back to another ice age, the temperature has stayed flat and it's now gone up a little bit. So what did we do? What happened that makes it different from what happened 3 ice ages ago? We heated the climate. Our ancestors used the box of matches that they got and they started burning down things. They burned down forests and that made the earth hotter. And that, if you look at the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, that's shown in red. It matches what happened 3 ice ages ago, which is shown in blue, until about 6,000 years ago. And then you see it take off. The same with the methane levels. It matched what was happening 3 ice ages ago until about 5,000 years ago, and you see it then take off. That's what our ancestors did by burning down forests and raising animals and also growing rice that causes methane to be emitted. And by doing that, they kept the temperature constant. Next. See, if you look at the temperature of the Earth, 20,000 years ago, it was in an ice age. And then that's the red line, it goes up. It goes over the glaciation threshold about 10,000 years ago. And then it would have gone back to another ice age 5,000 years ago, except we kept the temperature constant by burning down forests. And by keeping the temperature constant, we could then do agriculture. Because if the temperature was not constant, agriculture cannot be done. Because you don't know what the climate is going to be year after year. So we kept the temperature constant for 10,000 years, and then over the last 200 years, we discovered fossil fuels, and we burnt them. And using that, we industrialized ourselves. And with that, we were able to create all the tools and technologies we need to understand all this, because otherwise we wouldn't know. And now, we are facing a choice. So that's the today line, you see that? So the temperature has gone up by 1.2 degrees Celsius, and it's getting harder and harder to do agriculture, because the seasons are changing, the climate is changing, the weather is changing. So now we have a choice. If we continue heating the climate, then the temperature is going to go up to maybe 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. And this is from a book by William Rediman, and he's assuming that after it goes up by 3 or 4 degrees Celsius, we are all going to be dead. And then the earth will go back to another ice age again. That's what he's showing. Okay, it goes back to another ice age again. Or, I really think that if we heat it up by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius, the earth will go into runaway climate change, and it could be the Venus syndrome on Earth. So Venus, the surface temperature on Venus is 460 degrees Celsius. Okay, that's a possibility on Earth also if we continue heating the climate. Or the third option, which is the green line I show, is that we start deliberately cooling the climate instead of heating the climate. Because we have all the tools and technologies we need to do that now. And if you start cooling the climate, then you can bring it back to the thermostat setting and keep it there. The reason you have to bring it back to the thermostat setting is that we know that that was a stable point in the Earth's climate. And you can keep it there and hold it there for as long as you want. And that is sustainability. Because sustainability is about making sure that you can live like this forever. And you can hand it over to our children and grandchildren and say, this is your job to maintain the climate like this. Okay? So that's the story that I constructed. And that assumes that nature is in charge. And we are just an instrument of nature. And why would nature want to do this? Why would she want to stabilize the climate? Because the Earth is part of the solar system. And the sun has been getting warmer and warmer over time. As the sun gets warmer and warmer, the earth is shedding off all her greenhouse gas blankets so that the temperature is roughly the same, right? And carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. So she's been reducing the carbon dioxide level, and it reached this point where it's now unstable. It's going up and down, up and down. And if the carbon dioxide level goes below 180 parts per million to about 100 parts per million, life may die. So in order to survive, she's now using us as a tool to stabilize the climate. Next. And we have everything we need to solve this problem because of the way we use Earth today. I have taken here data from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and they put this data in the form of block diagrams. Okay, so I just put it in a map. So overall, human beings are using 91% of the Earth's surface for ourselves. Only 9% is still original for us. So what I'm showing here is if you take all the land that we are currently using for plant agriculture and put it in one spot, it will cover Australia. Okay, roughly about 7% of the land area of the planet. And from that, we are extracting 85% of the food we eat. So 85% of the food we eat is already plant-based. We are 85% vegan already, worldwide. Okay? Only 15% is coming from animal foods. So now if you take all the land that we're using to grow our animal foods on land and put it in one spot, it will cover all of Europe, most of Asia, and a little bit of Africa. So that's the red area. So that's 43% of the land area of the planet, and it's only giving us 12% of the food we eat. So there's a tremendous inefficiency in animal agriculture because for every pound or every kg of animal food we get from the animals, we're actually having to feed the animals 39 kgs of food. There's a 39-to-1 reduction that happens. So when people talk about grain to kg, then they're only counting the grain. They're not looking at all the food that the animals eat. If we count all the food, it's on average is 39-to-1. Okay? So the deserts are about 20% of the land area of the planet, and those deserts used to be animal agriculture land. So I can see currently animal agriculture grazing land turning into desert. Okay, so that's how deserts are being formed. So if you ask me, the animal agriculture industry is responsible for about 60% of the land area of the planet being what it is now. Now if you take all the land we're using for timber and put it in one spot, it will cover all of North America, all of Central America, and a little bit of South America. It's 22% of the land area of the planet. And so there we have cut forests and then planted our own trees because we want paper or timber or whatever. So wild animals cannot live there. So wild animals are down by more than 90% from what they were 10,000 years ago. But this is the reason why I say that if we all go vegan, we can literally solve all our problems. Because that's only 12% of the food we eat. If we turn that into plant foods, we can return most of that land back to nature. Now, for the remaining 3% of the food we eat, we have been destroying the entire ocean. So in the ocean, what we do every year is that we trawl the bottom of the ocean. Okay? And the area of the bottom of the ocean that we trawl every year is equal to the area of South America. Every year. We're dragging nets from the bottom of the ocean in the area of South America just to get 3% of the food we eat. And the only reason they're able to do that is because it's heavily subsidized by governments. Otherwise it will be so expensive to get fish. What happened to it? No, there was no video, there was a diagram there, it's missing. The exit full screen, does it show up? Your computer may not have enough memory to display. Okay, fine. All right. So what scientists have done is they've looked at the systems on Earth, and they have come up with 9 planetary boundaries. Okay? And they say that if you are in the green zone on all 9 of them, then life can continue forever like that. And what they have found is that human beings have violated 6 of those planetary boundaries. So, and they're all in the red zone. And any one of those, if they're in the red zone, is sufficient to kill off all life on Earth. So it's like you are in a room and you have 6 fire alarms going. There are 6 of them that are red, okay? And so 6 fire alarms going, and we are all saying, I want to continue doing what I'm doing. Would you do that if there's 6 fire alarms going in this room now? Wouldn't you all get up and say, let's put out the fire first? So we will change our behavior, right? The same thing is happening on Earth. We have to change our behavior to address all 6 of these planetary boundary transgressions. And it turns out that if you go vegan, all 6 of them will come into the green zone. All 6 of them. Because the 6 transgressions are water use. We're using too much fresh water for ourselves, so there's not enough fresh water for wild animals, and they're dying because of that. Land use, we're using too much of the land for ourselves, as I showed you. There is not enough land for wild animals, and they're dying off because of that. Because every year, even that 9% of the land area that's currently forest, we go and grab another 30 million acres every year because we want to grow more meat. Okay, so that's the second one, the land use. And the third one is climate change. Climate change, if we go vegan, 40% of the land can be returned back to nature. On that land currently, grazing land, there are hardly any trees left. So overall, we have cut half the trees on the planet. So if you restore the forest that used to be there on that land, the trees will suck up the extra CO2 from the atmosphere and reverse climate change. So it's guaranteed. The climate change can be reversed if we all go vegan. Okay? And bring back the forests. We have to do both. Then comes the fourth one is chemical pollution. So we are pouring so much chemical pollution into the environment, and if we go vegan and bring back the forest, the trees will store all the extra chemical pollution in their trunks. And simultaneously, when we eat animal foods, we are getting a concentrated dose of the chemical pollution in our food. So when we go vegan, we literally are addressing chemical pollution both for the earth and for ourselves simultaneously. Then the next one is nitrogen and phosphorus loading. So that means that we are using too much nitrogen from the atmosphere for ourselves, and that is causing life to die because it causes dead zones in the ocean. And there again, the nitrogen pollution is coming from all the fertilizer that we use. And we put fertilizer on crops, and half the crops are being fed to animals. So therefore, if we go vegan, all that nitrogen does not have to be used. So there again, it will come into the green zone if we do that. And finally, it's biodiversity loss. And biodiversity loss, if we give land back to nature and we leave them alone in the ocean, they'll come back. Okay, so that's why I say that if we go vegan, in a vegan world, all 6 of these planetary boundary transgressions will go away. So imagine if you can do something that will stop all 6 fire alarms from going off. Wouldn't you do it? Isn't that the rational thing to do? Next. So right now the planet is dying. Okay, and it's dying really, really fast. So I see these as signals that Mother Nature is sending us, saying, you have to change quickly. And she's saying, if you don't change, fine, I don't mind dying. You will die too, with me. Right? So this is from the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report, and they said that between 1970 and 2010, 52% of all wild animals died off. And they're dying off at such a fast pace that if I extrapolate, by 2026 they're going to hit 100%. So this was from 2014. I calculated this based on what the World Wildlife Fund had said, and their report came out in 2014. So that's from 1970 to 2010. Now 1970, between 10,000 years ago and 1970, we had already killed 60% of wild animals. So it's on top of that, we killed another 52% of wild animals. So you can imagine, they are almost 84% gone by that time in 2010. Next slide. So that 52% became 58% by 2012. So you can see now, if you just draw a straight line, it's going to go to 100% by 2026. And this is when I made the pinky promise to my granddaughter that we are going to get to a vegan world by 2026. Because it's a necessity. If we see the data, we are going to do it. Right? So it's just a matter of telling people, hey, this is what's going on and we need to do this. Yeah, 58% has become 68% by, I think, next one, by 2016. So it's going. So we haven't learned our lesson yet. This is why I say, please convince your friends and family that this is an urgent issue and we have to do this. Okay? For our survival and for their survival as well. And for the survival of all life on earth. So I say that this is like there's a marathon journey that we've been on. You know? So it started 500,000 years ago. Our ancestors have been working on this project for 500,000 years. And we are the one generation that can either turn around and solve the problem, or we can continue going to McDonald's and kill everyone off. So it's like we are in a marathon where we have gone 26.197 miles out of 26.2 miles. So we have only 14 feet left to the end zone, to the finish line. But to get to the finish line, you have to make a U-turn. But if you go straight, there is a McDonald's. And there is a clown there saying, come, come, come. Would you think going to the McDonald's is the right thing to do? Would you finish the race? That's the choice we face now. I think it's really stark, so I cannot imagine anyone choosing to go to McDonald's. In fact, going to McDonald's to me is the most radical thing to do. That's the extreme thing to do. The normal thing to do is to finish the race. This again, it cannot show. So this is a picture of the world with. Yeah, it has the same problem. It's a picture of the world with 6 nonlinear feedback loops in the climate system that are close to tipping. Okay, so I said, see, climate change to me is. It's okay, I can talk through it. So it's like, there's a possibility of runaway climate change. So if the runaway climate change happens, then it's almost impossible to pull it back, okay? So these are the nonlinear feedback loops, and there are 6 of them that we know are between 1 and 2 degrees Celsius. We are already at 1.2 degrees Celsius. And we know that, we don't know exactly where the tipping points are happening. So the best thing we can do now is to pull it back. Pull it back, start cooling the climate and see if the earth responds in the right direction. If it does, then we are okay. If it doesn't, we have to cool it more and more. So that's the problem we are facing right now. So this is why, even though climate change is only the 4th worst of the 6 planetary boundary transgressions, it can become the number 1 very, very quickly. Because it has all these tipping points. And the unfortunate thing is, every one of those feedback loops are nonlinear or positive feedback loops. They're all going in the wrong direction. We don't see anything that's negative feedback, that's pulling us back in the right direction. Okay, so it looks like there are no stable points beyond where we are. Okay, so this is why you have to restore life as we know it, as opposed to trying to say, okay, we can go up to 5 degrees Celsius and then there'll be a stable point there. No, there isn't. It looks like it's going to go up to Venus syndrome. Oh, it looks like they found it. Thanks. So those 6 that are shown in orange are between 1 and 2 degrees Celsius. And so that includes the Arctic ice melt, the Barents Sea ice abrupt loss, right? Greenland ice sheet loss. So they're all estimated to be between 1 and 2 degrees Celsius. And if they all happen, I mean, basically it's going to double the heating on the planet if the Arctic sea ice melts. Because Arctic sea ice is now reflecting sunlight back into space, and if the ice melts, the water will absorb the sunlight. So that instantly will double the heating on the planet. So there are several such nonlinear feedback loops that we are facing. Next. So I wrote a paper saying that animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change, responsible for at least 87% of greenhouse gas emissions on an annual basis. Now I based that on counting all of the emissions that we do. The way the UN counts emissions is that they take a discount for animal agriculture. Okay, so they allow the animal agriculture industry to say that if they're deforesting 30 million acres, if they also gave up 20 million acres, abandoned 20 million acres of grassland, then they only have deforested 10 million acres. Okay, so these are the kinds of things they do. So it's like when you deforest, you get a 72% discount on the emissions. And if you're the breeding of the animals, you get a 100% discount. So this is how they get to 14.5%. And that's the number that other people are quoting. Absolutely wrong. So if you really start counting everything, it's much more than 87%. 87% is the lower bound I came up with based on what I can actually show is already happening now, right? It's an engineering lower bound. And if you update it, I updated it with the 6th assessment report, it's gone up to 118%. It's more than 100%. And even then, I still haven't included the CO2 emissions from pasture maintenance fires, I haven't included the CO2 emissions from animal respiration, from bottom trawling of the ocean. All of those I haven't included because it hasn't been estimated. And the reason it hasn't been estimated is because the UN FAO is not interested in estimating it. They're trying to hide the cow in the room so that we don't take action on our own. So if you include all that, it will be much more than 118%. And what that means is that if we all go vegan and we restore the forest that we cut, even though we are still driving around in cars and flying around in planes and doing all the other activities exactly as is, the climate will be cooling on Earth. That's how powerful veganism is. So here is a model that I created to show how you would solve the problem. And that's, in the model, basically I'm using a bathtub to represent the atmosphere. So the atmosphere has 1100 billion tons of carbon dioxide that we have added since 1750. So that's why there is 1100 liters of water in the bathtub. So each liter is like 1 billion ton of carbon dioxide. And it's being filled by 2 faucets. There's a burning machine faucet that's pouring 35 liters per minute. So that corresponds to 35 billion tons per year that we add from fossil fuel burning. And then the killing machine has 15 liters per minute. So it looks like the killing machine has less water flowing. Right? That's because I'm using the UNFAO's convention, so I'm not counting all the other emissions that they didn't include. But there are 2 other things that I show there. There are 2 tanks. There's an aerosol tank that's connected to the burning machine faucet. And that represents the cooling gases that you emit when we burn fossil fuels today. And no one talks about that. And it's so important to talk about it because if we rashly go and change the burning machine faucet, shut it off, it will actually take all that water that's in the aerosol tank and pour it into the bathtub. Because the cooling gases will go away. And the cooling gases currently are masking about 1/3 of the heating. This is why it's 350 liters versus 1100 liters. It's about 1/3. So the model says that for every 1 liter per minute that we turn off the burning machine faucet, the aerosol tank will open up and let 10 liters pour from the tank into the bathtub. Okay? And then the killing machine faucet is connected to the drain of the bathtub. And for every 1 liter per minute that you turn off the killing machine faucet, it opens the drain and allows 3 liters per minute to pour out of the bathtub into the tank below. So that's what happens to the land that you release back from animal agriculture. So it will start sucking down the CO2. So that's what this represents. So it's another 10% more CO2 than what we have today. And I say we are going to trigger a whole bunch of nonlinear feedback loops, and therefore it will become runaway climate change. So that's the assumption I'm making. So how would you now shut off the faucets? If you shut off the burning machine faucet first, you're going to kill the baby instantly. Right? Because you're going to open up that aerosol tank and let 350 liters pour into the bathtub and the baby will drown right away. And that's what everybody is talking about doing. Right? So it's like no one who's talking about solutions seems to have any engineering background. This is what we engineers do when we ask us to solve a problem. We come up with a model and we look at what the model is telling us. This model is telling us to shut off the killing machine faucet as quickly as possible. Because when you shut it off, it will open up the drain and allow 45 liters to pour out of the bathtub into the vegan reforestation tank. So if we shut off the killing machine faucet, right now there is 50 liters per minute pouring into the bathtub, right, if you don't do anything. But if you shut off the killing machine faucet, there will be 35 liters pouring in from the burning machine faucet and 45 liters being drained out. So its net effect is that 10 liters is being drained out of the bathtub. So that's what I mean by it's going to cool. So instead of 50 liters coming in, it's really like 60 liters being taken out of that. So that's where the 120% comes from. Right? Next. So basically the signals from nature are telling us to change our relationship with life. So relationship with life right now, we kill animals, we exploit them, and we destroy life. That's what we do routinely in our current system. So we need to change the system so that we stop the killing, we go vegan, and we start restoring life. So that should be our focus as humanity. How do you restore life that would be killed? And that's a different system altogether. Next. And that's a system that's basically focused on health as opposed to diseases. Right now, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine has said that 90% of our healthcare costs come from these 8 risky behaviors. That's poor diet, physical inactivity, smoking, lack of health screening, poor stress management, insufficient sleep, poor standard of care, and excessive alcohol consumption. These are the 8 risky behaviors that are responsible for 90% of the healthcare costs on earth. And all 8 of these risky behaviors are encouraged in the system. We actually encourage our children to eat bad food. We encourage physical inactivity by making them stuck to their electronic devices. So every one of these are encouraged in the system. Because if we stop doing these 8 things, you're going to shrink the healthcare economy by 90%. And the system is all based on growth. So whatever you have to keep growing more and more and more. Okay? And that's the game you have to play. And especially in India, we have faced this so many times before. Because during colonial era, between 1800 and 1945, India went through 25 famines. And almost 100 million people died from these famines. And these were all engineered famines. These are not not real famines. These were engineered by the colonial system to get us to get up and go work. This is how they got laborers from India to go to Fiji, go to Jamaica. Because if you get on a ship, at least you'll get food to eat. Now the result of this is that people who survived are those who were able to store fat easily. And now, this is why Indians get diabetes at 4 times the rate as Europeans. Because we have been genetically selected to store fat easily. All those who couldn't store that fat have died off. So it's all the more important for us to take care of our health in India. And one of the lies that they tell us to make us consume animal foods is that animal foods have protein. Only animal foods have protein. And I'm showing you here data from a paper by Gardner of Stanford, and he shows all these plant foods and the amino acid profiles in them. So you can see there are 20 amino acids on top, and you can see that all colors are there in all plant foods. So all plant foods have all amino acids. There are no missing amino acid in any plant food. So it's incorrect to talk about incomplete proteins. They're all complete proteins in all plant foods. Next.
There is a system working against you here also.
I know.
I didn't get an aerosol link. Can you
Yeah.
maybe later?
Oh, okay. So I say that, take the 8 risky behaviors from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine's graphic and do the exact opposite. And you'll get the 8 healthy activations. So from poor diet, you do healthy vegan diet. From physical inactivity, it's yogasanas. From smoking, it's pranayama. Right? So do the exact opposite and you'll discover that you'll become healthy by doing this. And this to me is the oxygen mask growth. This is self-care. So we have to take care of ourselves. We have to become healthy before we go and work on the environment. Because unless you're healthy, you're not going to care about the environment. It's going to be all about your own body. Right? So they say that self-care is the first step in our the process of transformation. So from poor stress management it will be meditation. From insufficiency it will be adequate rest and sleep. From poor standard of care, it's a sense of purpose. And we have a purpose now. We have to stabilize the climate. If we don't stabilize the climate, we're going to die. So we have to take care of this. And finally, from excessive alcohol consumption, it's contact with nature. That's the opposite. So I say that the first implementation that we need to do for the new system is to make sure that healthy food is freely available to every human being on the planet. That's the foundation of a system where it's all about health. So we shouldn't have to pay for food. Why are we starving people? Because they're not working enough? Is that what that is? That's a colonial system. So we still are in a colonial system. The same thing that they did with us, with Indians in 1800 to 1945. It's happening still in the world. I say to solve the problem, you need to make sure that healthy food is available for free to every human being on the planet. So with that, I'm going to throw the floor open for questions, and let's have a discussion around this.
Because vegan food is always expensive, so common men cannot afford.
Vegan food is expensive in the current model, but basically it is dal and rice is still the cheapest. Yeah. And so on top of that, you need to add some vegetables, and those I think you should be able to start growing on your own. So we can make. After I turned vegan, my grocery bill actually went down. Honestly, my grocery bill went down, didn't go up. Because I'm eating mostly whole food plant-based. I'm not eating processed foods. That's where the expense comes from.
Right.
Yes.
When you speak to people about veganism and you sort of try to motivate them that go vegan, it's good, healthy and all that, then the one common observation from the public, masses, it comes that And if you go vegan, that will, all the animals, the milk industry animals will be sent to slaughterhouse immediately. I don't know how to deal with that.
Well, people are not going to go vegan 100% right away. Okay, so the first step will be to stop producing new cows. Stop the artificial insemination process. Okay, stop abusing their bodies to get new cows, and then the system will take care of itself. So then start making milk more and more expensive because there is less and less of it. And people will transition. So that's how you would do it if you wanted to actually transform. But it's not clear to me that the governments right now want to transform. They want to stick to what they know, right? So it's more and more of us have to go vegan in order to put pressure on them to change. So this has to come from the grassroots. I say this is like Gandhi's Khadi movement. So Gandhi persuaded people to change their clothes, and finally he was able to get the British government to negotiate with him because their textile mills went bankrupt in Manchester. We have to do the same thing to the dairy industry. So if we go vegan throughout the world and put pressure on the dairy industry, then eventually they will negotiate with us. So I say the vegan movement is the Khadi movement of the 21st century. And it's worldwide, it's not just in India. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get in your bathtub model, I didn't get the aerosol connection that you were showing. If you can
Yeah, so what happens when we burn fossil fuels, especially coal and oil, is that it emits carbon dioxide, but there are also sulfur impurities in the coal and the oil, and so it emits also sulfur dioxide. Now every molecule, every complex molecule, whether it's carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide, has a radiation profile. So carbon dioxide happens to be a greenhouse gas because its radiation profile is in the infrared region. So that's where the Earth's heat is going up. So it masks the heat. So it prevents it from going up, and therefore it heats the Earth. Okay. Whereas the sulfur dioxide radiation profile is in the visible region, it's in the visible light. So it's actually reflecting sunlight back. So it's a cooling gas. So you're emitting a heating gas and a cooling gas simultaneously, right? The heating gas goes and stays up there for a long time because we keep deforesting. We are preventing it from coming back down by deforesting every year. Whereas the cooling gas comes down within a week. So you have to continuously burn fossil fuels to keep the cooling gas up there. Because if the cooling gas goes away, instantly the Earth will heat by another 30% right away. So if we shut off all of our fossil fuel burning for a week, you will see the Earth will get hotter by another 1/3. So right now we are heating the Earth by about 3 watts per square meter. It's like putting a 3-watt bulb on every 1 meter by 1 meter surface of the Earth. That's what we have done with. If we stop the fossil fuel burning and the cooling gas goes away, it will become 4 watts per square meter. Immediately, within a week.
So burning fossil fuel is having a beneficial effect?
Exactly. This is what is known as the Faustian bargain of fossil fuels. And that's what Hansen wrote a paper like that, called the Faustian bargain of fossil fuels. It has a benefit, but it's not a long-term benefit, okay? Because if you keep burning more and more fossil fuels to get more and more sulfur up there, it will become acid rain, which will kill trees. So, but when we deforest and you basically use land for animal agriculture, there is no sulfur dioxide emissions. It's only all greenhouse gases. This is why when you go vegan and you shut off the animal agriculture industry, everything will improve. There's not a single thing that will go bad, everything will improve. Thank you.